Everything went pretty well as scripted on a week 13 of college football, but it was entertaining nonetheless. I enjoyed watching a number of games today starting at noon Eastern time, and we're here to talk about them with you right here at the Voice of College Football, of course. Please pull up a chair for the next hour or two, or three, or four, or five. I'm available until, man, there's really no limit tonight. We can talk college football into Sunday afternoon at this point. I usually have some kind of plans on Sunday, but no plans as of right now on Sunday. So we could make this a 24-hour deal if you would like. So that is up to you. We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind that the most important thing that I will say tonight is that the Amazon link is in the description section of this video and all the videos here at the Voice of College Football. So when you shop on Amazon, we would ask that you would use our link. Our link works exactly like your link. They are exactly the same. However, our link tells the powers that be in the sky at Amazon to send 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, something in that range, depending on the product, to the Voice of College Football. So, how about that? Amazon's worth $3 freaking trillion. And we here at the Voice of College Football are worth slightly less than that. So you can keep us going. Wink, wink. You can keep us going here at the Voice of College Football by using the Amazon link that we provide. And again, it is absolutely no consequence to you. You help us grow and build the channel without spending a penny. So you don't spend 1 red cent more, and you help us grow and build the channel. And you may eventually send Amazon out of business. Now, that I can't predict. I will not take responsibility for that. When you take away the 3 or 4% away from Amazon, that you will take them out of business. I can't necessarily take responsibility for that, but maybe we will do an investigation years to come, and they will say, you know what, it was that Mark guy on the Voice of College Football that was the demise of Amazon. So again, we are here for the next hour with you talking college football. We would love to be here longer than that. We will take your comments and questions there in the chat, of course, and we will take your calls, and we're going to run through the scores first and foremost. And when I first came on, I scanned the landscape, all of college football, and really, yes, nothing surprising today. Everybody pretty much held serve. Everything that was expected to happen happened. I know that I tell you all the time that there are 5 upsets in power conference play every week. Mark it down. 5 upsets. I even went through this season every week, 5 upsets. Couple weeks 4, couple weeks 6, 5 upsets every week. I don't know that we had 5 upsets this week. I don't know that we had really any, but we will go through again all of the action. Texas probably done. That would be my biggest takeaway off the top of my head is that Texas has to be done. They lost by 25 points to Georgia. Had they made that a game, then I wouldn't necessarily state that. The Oklahoma win at Alabama, of course, was huge. And Michigan is still alive despite Northwestern's best effort at Wrigley Field. That was an entertaining game that the Maize and Blue barely pulled out. Of course, USC with a huge win as well, and more ruckus in the Big 12 and in the ACC to discuss. All right, let's get to the scores. And just double checking that our scores are up to date. All right. As we approach 11 o'clock Eastern time, we've got Missouri leading against Mississippi State at home. 5 minutes left to play, 49-27. Jacksonville State leads Kennesaw State 32-26 late in the game there. Washington State 14, Louisiana Tech nothing. That game in Pullman nearing the big game in the Big 12 concerning BYU's playoff hopes. If they lose another game, they are probably toast because they will not necessarily get to the Big 12 championship game. Don't hold me on that. They are 5-1 in the conference, but if they go to 5-2, again, another scenario for us to line up tonight or sometime this week. But BYU leads at home against TCU 17-0. Huge game in the Mountain West Conference. This is enormous. San Diego State and Boise State, as you see, both teams are at 4-1 and tied for first place in the Mountain West Conference. And the Aztecs lead at 7-0. Fresno State 7 and Wyoming 3. Now we go to the top 25 in the rest of the day. Ohio State, no problem with UCLA 48-10. Indiana drubs Wisconsin 31-7. It did take the Hoosiers a while to get going in that one. In the game of the day, in regards to what could have been the shocker of the day, what turned out to be the comeback of the season. Texas A&M down 30-3 at home against South Carolina, roars back for the win, 31-30, and the Aggies stay undefeated at 10-0. Oklahoma continues its path toward the playoff and takes an enormous step toward achieving that goal. They've got Mizzou and LSU the next 2 weeks, and the Sooners win at Alabama 23-21. Texas drubbed at Georgia 35-10. That's the Longhorns' third loss. And again, they did not compete with Georgia tonight. They got it down to 14-10 sometime late in the third quarter, but Georgia dominated the fourth quarter and most of the game, 35-10, as the Dogs roll it home. Texas Tech continues to look the part. They drop hapless UCF 48-9. Ole Miss was given quite a game against Florida, but they pulled away late, winning 34-24. Notre Dame completely just manhandled Pitt, worse than the final score would indicate, 37-15. Utah puts up 55 at Baylor, defeats the Bears 55-28. Miami bounces back to defeat NC State 41-7. Boston College put a scare into Georgia Tech. This would have severely damaged Georgia Tech's playoff hopes, of course, and most likely sent them packing with a second ACC loss. But Georgia Tech comes back from 11 down in the fourth quarter and wins 36-34 in Chestnut Hill. USC with an enormous win against Iowa, 26-21. They were down 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Michigan delivers a walk-off field goal at Wrigley Field, and they defeat Northwestern in a really good, entertaining football game, 24-22. Virginia, 1 week after collapsing against Wake Forest, gets off the deck and wins at Duke 34-17 to maintain their lead in the ACC. Tennessee over New Mexico State 42-9. Navy in a huge way. This is an enormous game in which Navy was a double-digit underdog. They win at home against USF 41-38. Arizona goes on to 7-3 with a win against Cincinnati on the road, 30-24. Kansas State, too much for Oklahoma State, 14-6 and a yawner. UConn, coming off its big victory against Duke, defeats Air Force 26-16. Texas San Antonio over Charlotte 28-7. Eastern Michigan over Ball State 24-9. LSU squeaks by Arkansas. LSU by Arkansas in Death Valley 23-22. In what I saw, I don't know if this has been verified, the first game in SEC history where 2 interim coaches faced off against each other. Tulsa 31, Oregon State 14. West Virginia comes back but falls short at Arizona State 25-23. Kentucky, too much for Tennessee Tech 42-10. Marshall 30, Georgia State 19. North Texas defeats UAB 53-24, and the Mean Green are now 9-1, and they continue to be just a one-loss team in the American Conference. They're still a factor. Missouri State over UTEP 38-24. New Mexico defeats Colorado State 20-17. Terry Smith gets his first win as interim coach at Penn State. And the Nittany Lions defeat hapless Michigan State team 28-10. Illinois crushes Maryland 24-6. We've got Western Kentucky over Middle Tennessee 42-26. Nevada at home against San Jose State 55-10. James Madison defeats App State 58-10. So JMU continues to hold out hopes of a college football playoff appearance. South Alabama 26, UL Monroe 14. Texas State defeats Southern Miss 41-14. We've got East Carolina upsetting Memphis 31-27. Big score in the American Conference. We talked about this all week last week. People have been dismissing East Carolina because of their overall record. But in terms of the group of 5 in the American Conference, they had the easiest path. And if they could get by this one, which they did at home over Memphis, again, an enormous win for the Pirates. They defeat the Tigers 31-27. Tulane over FAU 35-24. And Wake Forest defeats North Carolina 28-12. FIU 34, Liberty 27. Coastal Carolina at Georgia Southern. And Georgia Southern wins 45-40. Washington rolls over Purdue 49-13. We've got Sam Houston over Delaware 26-23. UNLV 29. Utah State 26. Florida State wins at home 34-14 over Virginia Tech. And so there you have it. We go to the phone lines. We've left the link there in the chat. We will drop it in here once again. We have also left it on X as well. And I would like to let all the folks on X know that we are going to be leaving you in just a few minutes. So if you're watching us on Twitter/X, please join us on YouTube at the Voice of College Football, and you can join in the chat that way. So that's the best way to interact with everyone in the chat, of course, is to join us on YouTube. So here in just a couple minutes, we're going to cut off our feed to X. All right, let's get to the calls. We'll start with Rob here at the Voice of College Football.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Somewhat. It's a bit loud there.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Basically the same. We're hearing more from the people behind you than we can from you.
All right, I'll just get off here and let another caller come in.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
All right, let's bring in we got Muley stopping by.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
What in the world is going on? Okay, maybe I'm hearing something. Maybe I've got a window open. Hang on. I know what that was. Okay. That's funny. Okay, Rob, go ahead and call back. That was not you. I had a window open because I had to have it open, and there must have been an ad rolling. I won't even try to explain. Muley, what's going on tonight?
Nothing much. Just going through. Did you already go through the scores? I just hopped on.
Yeah, I went through all the scores.
Okay, so I guess big takeaways, I'll start off first with the group of 5 representative, because I saw that, with South Florida losing, I think I saw like the All-State playoff predictor now has JMU as the team like number 1 right now. So my first question is, do you agree with it, and why?
I don't agree or disagree with it. Yeah, I have not taken any time. I did not know what the scores in the American Conference were until about 3 minutes ago. So I haven't even had time to digest any of that to make any kind of call. They have put all that into the computers, and therefore know a whole lot more about it right this second than I do. That's for sure.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and just say this. So Memphis and USF have lost. They're now 3 lost teams. Navy Navy beat.
Yeah, we just read through the score, so we know who won the games.
Okay, so I think what it comes down to is North Texas is a 1-loss team. Navy and Tulane are 2 losses, right? So, and there's no 3-loss team that's going to jump a JMU, correct? I don't know if I've made this. I feel like I may have made this point before, but my thing is, as much as JMU in the past couple of weeks have been dominant, which definitely needs to be considered, I just can't help when I look at the American and seeing like the top 6 teams just all like battling it out. Like if you look at these top 6 teams, these are all quality group of 5 teams. Like you're talking about of the best of the best in terms of that. So that's at least my take. Is it's kind of not fair to this American team where a couple of these teams could be Power 5 teams, most definitely. A few of these, and then they're racking up losses because they're having to play each other.
Yes.
Mhm.
So Muley, once again, what was the playoff predictor percentage?
I don't remember. I just saw that JMU was number 1 and North Texas was number 2, which
Okay.
I don't agree. I mean, because North Texas, the only good team they played in the conference is Navy, and they lost. So that's the one loss, and they haven't played anyone out of conference. If anything, I would say Tulane should be the representative, given they've beaten 2 Power 4 teams, and their loss, while it was a blowout, they did lose to Ole Miss, and they've beaten. I'm forgetting who they've beaten off the top of my head, but they've beaten a couple teams in their conference too.
Yeah, so if we're considering those top 6 teams to be the class of the American Conference,
Mm-hmm.
I, like you, just think that the level of play and the strength of schedule needs to be highly determined here. So I do understand it at first glance, not in any way looking to elevate a 3-loss team above a 1-loss team. However, to your point, the collective wins of these teams, even outside the conference, not even talking about them competing against themselves, which they've basically cannibalized themselves by playing difficult games against each other. But on top of that, obviously, Tulane has defeated Northwestern. They've defeated Duke. They played Ole Miss, got blown out in that game. I can't remember. I think North Texas quasi difficult non-conference game was against Washington State. So forget that.
Mm-hmm.
East Carolina, I believe, played NC State outside
And
the
BYU.
conference. They also have another loss, against BYU.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically these teams are being penalized for playing not only a difficult conference schedule, but they've gone out and scheduled difficult non-conference games. Of course, South Florida against Florida and Miami, Memphis against Arkansas,
Mm-hmm.
and James Madison did go out there and play
Louisville. Yeah.
And that was like a 20-14 game in the fourth quarter. I believe they lost by 2 touchdowns. So they were competitive in that game.
Right.
Louisville is a good team, of course. They're not a great team. They've shown us that the last few weeks. So that's not in any way, I think, comparable to Tulane losing the one game that they did. Tulane has shown itself capable in those other 2 power conference games. So I just think it's such a difficult, I would like to know what is the American Conference's record against the Sun Belt.
Do they have that many? I haven't gone through, but do they even have that many games between the Sun Belt?
I don't know. That would be interesting to see because there's just no comparison between these 2 conferences.
Mm-hmm. That would be an interesting thing to look in next. Another.
I agree with you. I know that we had this conversation a few weeks ago, and I likened it to what happened a few years ago when Liberty got the nod over SMU, even though they played nobody in the power conferences, and SMU had a much better year against better teams. And that was just for a New Year's 6 appearance. This is so much more important. And so James Madison obviously did not play anybody else outside the conference that was really worth anything. Weber State. Yeah, the rest of these games don't amount to much. They have been largely dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got Washington State coming up, and that's not a significant win this year. And Coastal. So, yeah, it is unfortunate that if James Madison goes 12-1, they probably would get the nod. And we've got 2 weeks left. And so, if anything, these American Conference teams are just going to continue to lose games to each other. And then there's also the possibility that the team that's in the inferior position in the championship game wins the championship game.
Mm-hmm. And I'll also mention this as we talk about expanded conferences and not playing too many teams. In the conferences, North Texas, again, the only real team they played was Navy, which they lost. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't play anyone. I could be wrong. Let's just go ahead and go through that. So yeah, Lamar, Western Michigan. Yeah, no, South Florida. They got blown out by South Florida, and then they beat Navy. Okay, so and what are the remaining games? Yeah, so there's a chance that maybe you can say that because JMU still has to play Coastal Carolina, which is a 3-loss team, and then they have to play most likely Southern Miss. There could be a chance where the committee might say, hey, if North Texas wins out, we'll take JMU over North Texas, because they avoided they essentially, then again, they'll probably play Tulane, so I don't know. That would be 3 teams. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I got to think that the American Conference winner, if they've got 2 losses, is definitely going to get in over the 1-loss James Madison team. But if they get to a 3-loss comparison to a 1-loss comparison, I would still take the American Conference champion.
I agree. And I guess my last thing I want to point out is more on just the overall aspect after these results. So I think it's fair to say there's most likely going to be no 3-loss team making the playoffs this year. Texas was the shot, and then Oklahoma, they beat Bama. So I don't think there's really any shot for a 3-loss team. But also, we're having all these teams 1-2 losses, and I don't know off the top of my head who has played who or whatnot. But there could be a chance a good amount of 2-loss teams get left out, Mark, because let's look at the rankings. From 15 through 20 is Miami, Georgia Tech, USC, Michigan, Virginia. All those teams won today. Well, Louisville was the 20th. They lost, but those are 4 teams right there that are outside looking in. If I'm going to be honest, USC and Michigan, I think they should jump Georgia Tech at this point. If they win out, they should definitely get some consideration. But now you have Oklahoma losing. Do you drop Bama for losing to Oklahoma? They have the Florida State loss, but they also have one of the toughest schedules. Like, who do you like? It's going to be a really hard thing for committee. And there's
Alabama should be ranked below Oklahoma.
Oh yes, that's what I'm saying. Do they get knocked out, or like if BYU runs the table and then I don't know loses in the championship game to Texas Tech?
They're not getting in. No,
they're not going to get in.
Not as a 2-loss team against SEC teams that have 2 losses.
Even because people are going to say they went 1 loss in their conference and they had to play an extra game. So why did they get penalized? Yeah.
All right, let's draw this up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon in. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
3 from the Big Ten. Okay, let's do the easy conferences. Let's say the ACC gets some kind of conventional situation. Now that Duke's out of the way, I got to think that their conference champion is going to be ranked, whether it's Miami, Virginia, Georgia Tech, whoever it is, Pitt, that they're going to be ranked, and so therefore they're going to get the automatic bid out of the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the Big 12 with most likely Texas Tech, So let's just go with a uniform. Texas Tech wins the Big 12, and they're the only team there. And then we've got Notre Dame gets in, and that's 6 teams right there. That leaves 6 other spots for the SEC and the Big 10.
And well, I'll also say, because you mentioned for Big 12, Utah, their last 2 games are against Kansas and Kansas State.
Yes.
And if BYU runs the table too, then
we'll
then
put
Utah,
them on the side.
Yeah,
Utah and BYU at 10-2/11-2 if they lose, or if they win the conference championship game, then Utah is not getting into the conference championship game.
right.
Yeah.
Unless, because BYU owns the head-to-head. Yes, they're not going to get in. Okay, but the committee likes them. They've been blowing out teams too, so I think that's just going to help them.
Yeah, I think that the Big 12's best chance is that BYU runs the table and wins the conference championship game against Texas Tech.
Right,
and they both get in.
I agree, and not to mention,
what are we trying to create here? We're trying to create the most realistic situation in which we've got a log jam, right? So we want to take 2 teams from the Big 12. Do we make it 2 from the Big 12?
Right. And Notre Dame, their last 2 games is Syracuse and Stanford. They're going to finish 2 losses.
Yeah. So that's the Big 10 with 3. Before we look at USC and Michigan, ACC with 1, the Big 12 with 2, and Notre Dame. That's 7 spots with 5 left for the SEC and the Big 10. All right, the SEC, Texas A&M in, Bama, let's assume that they beat Auburn in. I don't think that that's necessarily a gimme, though.
Right.
Georgia in with their win tonight, even if they lose to Georgia Tech. So that's 3 in for the SEC. Ole Miss in, that's 4. Oklahoma in, that's 5. So let's say that's 5 for the SEC that are basically in. That's your 10. But we've got Michigan at 10-2, and we've got USC at 10-2, and we could have Vandy at 10-2.
Right. And USC plays Oregon next week too.
Sure.
So if they beat Oregon, does Oregon drop out? It's going to be quite an interesting logjam. Also, Vandy, yes.
There's a thought that if Michigan beats Ohio State, that they automatically get in because they just beat the number 1 team in the country and they're 10-2. And I get that. They're an enormous brand. They beat Ohio State. They're 10-2. But if you do the comparison between them and USC beat them by 3 scores. And then if USC beats Oregon, USC kind of has this head-to-head against Oregon and Michigan. How do you leave out USC?
I don't think you can. You definitely put them over Vandy, and then over to maybe, do you put them over Alabama and say, well, the Florida State loss is just so bad?
No.
Even if Bama beat 4 ranked teams in a row.
No, I don't think USC gets in any way over Alabama. I'm talking about comparing USC against Oregon and Michigan. Well, they won the games head-to-head.
Well, yeah, they would own the head-to-head. For sure.
Yeah. Alabama's going to be in the playoff at 10-2. I just don't see any way. Yeah.
Right.
You could liken, if Florida State finishes this year, what are they right now? 5-5?
Yep.
If they go 6-6, that's a bad loss, of course. USC has losses against Notre Dame and Illinois. Okay. All right. Well, we are not going to solve this puzzle, and it's kind of frustrating and difficult to do without any kind of graphic support to try to group these teams and put them together in such a way to compare them. So we will attempt to do that possibly this week.
For sure.
All right, Muley. Appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks, Mark. Oh, last thing. Last thing, too. We were talking about Georgia. You said even if they lose to Georgia Tech, if Georgia Tech wins, somehow beats Georgia and loses in the ACC championship game, what happens there?
So Georgia Tech's 11-2 and Georgia's 10-2. And if that's all there is to it, yeah, Georgia Tech definitely has an argument, even though the Georgia resume is so much stronger.
Mm-hmm. So much.
Yeah, that would be difficult. I would not like to see Georgia Tech left out when they would win the head-to-head, plus have had to play an extra game. That's a great scenario too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways, thanks, Mark. Have a good one.
Thanks, Muley. Appreciate you being here, man. All right, let's give this another go with Rob, and I will apologize to Rob. So that was completely my fault, Rob. I had a window open that if it would have been music or something that would have been identifiable as obviously I've got a window open, but it was like outside noise on whatever window I had open. So I just thought that you were outside somewhere. So anyway,
no,
proceed.
it's all good. How do I sound now?
Perfect.
All right, awesome. So yeah, what a fun day of college football. And I would say that this was incredibly interesting, the outcome, especially Alabama finding a way to lose to Oklahoma. And I picked Alabama to win that game. And I think probably I would say that most people did. Not saying that no one picked Oklahoma, obviously, but that was a like a textbook example of how to lose a game. I know when some people say more teams lose game than win them, find ways to win them. Well, that was when you look at the team stats, Alabama outgained Oklahoma by nearly twice the yards. I mean, every category, they just with the turnovers and Oklahoma playing a clean game. Now, I will give Oklahoma tons of credit. That defense and that Brent Venables defense is nasty, and they're going to be a problem for anybody in the playoffs. And I think they probably cemented themselves in the playoffs now. As long as they went out, I don't see them getting left out. So. That's an impressive win for Oklahoma. I didn't see that coming. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And when I say it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen now, look at the way Miami just pounded NC State. Now, there's not going to be anybody out there that's saying NC State is some juggernaut or some good team or anything like that. But they have some of their best wins were against the better elite teams of the ACC, right? They beat Virginia. They beat Georgia Tech. They were capable of playing with the big boys, quote unquote. Miami just trashed them. So I think the committee is going to do another one of these things where they bump Miami up, several spots at least again. And it's going to get very interesting when the end of the season comes around and you do have a 10-2 Notre Dame and a 10-2 Miami, with Miami having the head-to-head, assuming Miami and Notre Dame both went out, which I think they probably will at this point. I mean, Pitt could get Miami, so we'll have to see what happens there. But I mean, Notre Dame just dismantled Pitt, and I don't think Miami, if they play their best, they're not going to have much of a problem with Pitt either. So it's going to be interesting down the line. And then obviously Oklahoma. And I think the only thing that's good for Notre Dame here today is that Texas just looked miserable. I don't know what they're doing in the fourth quarter of these games, but Vanderbilt almost came back to beat them last week. And now Georgia just throttled them in the fourth quarter. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. This playoff hunt is going to come down to the wire. So I don't know. What were your takeaways today on that? Like, what was the big thing that stuck out to you about the playoffs, in particular?
Well, that even though we seem to be focused on 3 or 4 teams to win a national championship, that I always throw Georgia in the ring, and I think that was somewhat confirmed tonight. And Texas is a very talented, dysfunctional team. They have offensive line issues. They don't pass protect well. Georgia really brought up. Was the far superior team up front, and that's why they won the game. Michigan continues to beat bad and middling Big Ten teams barely, but that's not going to matter when they line up against Ohio State, or it could be completely exposed, but they just have not played well against anyone. Michigan doesn't have a impressive performance the entire season. In my estimation, the USC Iowa game was very interesting to me. I thought that was an excellent game. Iowa, I think I have absolutely no idea what happened at the end of the game, where their coaching staff got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that pretty much handed USC the win.
Yeah, they didn't show it, right?
Not that they wouldn't have won the game. They still would have had a 90-some% certainty of winning the game. But I hate when officials make those kind of calls with the game on the line. That just drives me nuts. My point is that the officials need to set the standard and the precedent for the conduct of the sidelines and the players on the field in the first quarter. And they need to take the temperature of the room and determine, is this a chippy game? Do we have to watch particular players or conduct on the sideline? And this is when we rein it in the first quarter. But I do not like deciding games with especially sideline penalties with 30 seconds left in the game. That's just, I can't stomach that.
Well, especially when you can't see it, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
no idea what happened. It wasn't even addressed on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah, we had no idea what was going on.
Like conduct. Oh, USC's got a first down. The game's over.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, there was some interesting calls on both sides of that game. I mean, I saw someone in the chat say that the refs were against Iowa today, and there was definitely some calls that were like, yeah, that was, I could see at that point. But there was also some calls going, in their favor, like that pass interference against Jacoby that should have been called against Jacoby Lane in the end zone when he went up for that touchdown catch. I mean, the refs are just bad, guys. I mean, the refs are bad this year, especially. But when you have a call like that on the sideline, you can't see what's going on. That does make you kind of raise your eyebrow, like, hello, like, could we at least see what the penalty was called on here? So yeah, that was definitely interesting.
That is basically the Big Ten Network not having the resources of the other networks, and they just didn't have it.
Yeah. I mean,
so
probably.
They had no idea what was going on.
Which is funny because their actual like private equity deal that they have right now is very lucrative, right? What are they making, like $36 million per team right now or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know what that number is.
I believe I want to say it's like 36. I think if they get this new $2.4 billion deal rolling, I think it's going to jump up to like, I don't know. I don't want to put out weird numbers out there. I'll have to look it up again, but it's crazy. So we'll see what happens with the Big Ten. They're definitely trying to get more money than they already have. A little bit about my team. It was a fun game. I know not everyone's going to want to hear about Notre Dame, but I got to throw it out there. Mike Denbrock is the most frustrating offensive coordinator in the country because he's very good. I mean, obviously you saw what he did with Jaden Daniels. CJ Carr, he was leading the country in yards per attempt up until this week. I don't know what this is going to do to his stats, but he likes quarterbacks that can air it out. And today, when they're fourth and goal, when like fourth and inches against Pitt, for like the millionth time this year, he decides to have the quarterback roll out of shotgun and do like a little fade pass, to the end zone. It's like, why don't you have Jeremiah Love run the ball up the middle? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? It's incredibly frustrating. And speaking of Jeremiah Love, just want to shout him out. I hope that guy gets an invite to New York for the Heisman. I know he's not going to win. He's a running back and he's not leading the country in stats because he shares carries with Jadarian Price and all that. But Jeremiah Love is an exciting player, and man, I'm going to miss him when he's gone.
Yeah, no doubt. Those two teams were in completely different universes today. At one point, Notre Dame had a total yardage advantage of like 330 to 80. And yeah, I watched that game until it became completely non-competitive on the scoreboard. It was non-competitive from the first play of the game. Yeah, so I was extremely impressed with Notre Dame. I hadn't seen Pitt play this year, but Pitt is who they typically are, and that's a pretty marginal 7 or 8 win team that is obviously got top 25 votes and top 25 placement, and me included. I snuck them into the top 25 this past week, but they will be banished for the rest of the season because they are more like the 50th best team in the country. But Notre Dame is impressive. They look the part. Malachi Fields is awfully impressive too.
Oh yeah.
Dominated the game. Pitt has individual players on defense in particular who are really good, but in totality, just nowhere near the depth, the talent, the push at the line of scrimmage. yeah, those two teams were not playing the same game.
Yeah, and I want to give one more shout out to Adon Schuler, the most underrated defensive player in the country, in my opinion. That guy is amazing. And,
great game.
Yeah. So, anyways, enough about Notre Dame. But yeah, it's gonna be. I'm telling you, Mark, it's gonna come down to the wire with this playoff race, and today just made it a lot more interesting, in my opinion. Can't wait to see how this season plays out. A lot of teams in the mix now. That USC Oregon game is going to be the biggest game of that nature since forever. So. Both teams are actually fighting for something. It's been a minute for USC when it comes to that game, it seems like, but yeah, it's going to be a really fun rest of the season, and I'll get off here so you can take some more calls.
Cool. Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
I have to say that one of the last comments that Rob stated, and then also combining that with what Minnie is stating here, I am perplexed. Because I can't think of a weekend of college football that went as scripted as this weekend did. Like Rob just said something about how crazy today was, and Minnie is saying, my verdict after today is anyone can beat anyone. Really? I'm just perplexed by this because, again, we just saw no upsets today. Basically no upsets. BYU is going to win. They're a 3.5-point favorite. Can anybody beat Ohio State? Well, obviously there are teams that can beat Ohio State, but anyone? Obviously that was totally predictable. Now Texas A&M getting pushed to the hilt was not necessarily totally predictable. They were a 17-point favorite, and I quickly jumped on South Carolina in 17 points. I thought that would be an easy win in my prediction column. Oklahoma over Bama, that was not a big surprise. Georgia beating Texas, maybe 35-10. I did not anticipate that. Texas Tech rolled over UCF. I just see nothing but favorites winning, and winning close to what they were supposed to win by. Now, Michigan obviously got pushed. Now, would that have been a shocker if Michigan lost to Northwestern? They were just a 10-point favorite. And I rolled out a stat during my analysis video where if you take Michigan's performances against mid-tier to lower-tier Big Ten teams, Northwestern, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Purdue, and then you take the upper-tier teams in the Big Ten, and Michigan's contemporaries, their peers, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Iowa, USC, there is no comparison the way those 5 teams have played against those teams I just listed and Michigan's performances against those teams, where Michigan has not dominated any of those teams and obviously got pushed to the hilt by Northwestern today. That was an entertaining game. But again, no surprises. Like it was an entertaining day. I watched Michigan Northwestern at noon, and I watched Notre Dame Pitt at noon. At 3:30, I watched Iowa USC and Alabama Oklahoma. And then in primetime, I watched Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss Florida. All of that was entertaining. But we had absolutely no surprises. No surprises anywhere. I guess Navy beating USF, but still from a record standpoint, they're pretty much the same team. It was a rather mundane day of college football, as scripted. So I am just a bit surprised and perplexed by people's statements concerning the unpredictability of what we witnessed today. All right, we will get to our next call in just a second as soon as I can find these banners. I have no idea what people, maybe this is John filling in as host last night, putting in these banners. Let's get rid of that. There we go. We've got another 10 minutes. We only have 10 minutes left unless you guys want to stick around for the rest of the night. So that is up to you. We got Michael Hogue stopping by. Michael, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, how you doing today, sir?
Good. How's it going?
Not too bad. Hey, I gotta ask you this: have you ever seen something so crazy as what happened in the South Carolina Texas A&M game today? And I'm not talking about the actual game.
What are you talking about?
Did you see when South Carolina scored when that player was coming back from the tunnel? Him and that Texas DPS trooper bumped, and that trooper went after him.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, he got into it and stuff like that. I mean, the player was coming back into the coming back in, and that trooper bumped him. I don't know which game you watched of the noon games today. Was it the Pitt game you watched, or was it Texas A&M?
I watched Notre Dame and Pitt and Michigan Northwestern.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I didn't turn on the Texas A&M game until near the end of the game.
No, I was just wondering, since like that, kudos to Mike Elko, but I'm just trying to think, like, what the heck happened in the second half? Did they finally show up? I mean, where was they in the first half? What I'm asking.
It's football among 18 and 19-year-olds.
Sure. And
South Carolina's got really talented players. They don't have a very good team when they put it all together. Obviously, they're having a rough year, but again, yeah, they got a number of breaks to go their way. They were hot. I think you can throw a lot of things together. If you look at the talent on those two teams, there's really not that much difference in talent. We look at Texas A&M, oh, they're 10-0. South Carolina, oh, they're 3-6. But if you look at the high school talent rankings of those two teams, they're not very different. And so then you throw in maybe various matchups where South Carolina's got an advantage, and you throw in a very good game plan, and then the bounce of the ball, or somebody just not playing well, or a group of players not playing well, and you see these things happen.
And I got to ask you this too. I'm looking up Michigan's. Okay, so I got Maryland and Ohio State. I got to ask you this: is this kind of a possible elimination game for Michigan next Saturday?
Oh yeah, it's an elimination game. They've been playing nothing but elimination games since they lost their second game.
No, I'm saying because if USC beats Oregon, Michigan's pretty much done as far as making it to the college football playoff.
Oh, even if they beat Ohio State?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that, no.
I was just wondering, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't USC beat them?
Yes.
Okay, and Oklahoma beat them.
Yes.
And stuff like that. So
yeah, they're not getting in over USC or Oklahoma, and if they do, then the committee is really
stupid.
Got some serious issues.
Yeah.
But I cannot dismiss Michigan at 10-2 if they beat Ohio State and they're Michigan.
So there's go ahead, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go right ahead.
So there's a possibility that the Big Ten can still get 4 teams.
Sure.
Realistically, is it just 3?
Well, not realistically. I think realistically it could be 3 or 4. It's more likely that there's only 3 because we also have to consider that if Oregon loses, then we're looking at a big comparison between Michigan. So first of all, Michigan is most likely going to lose to Ohio State. So they're done.
Okay, but we've been saying that the last 4 years too, haven't we not?
Who has?
Everybody say, "Oh, Ohio State's going to lose to Michigan" for the last 4 years, and Michigan's won them 4 in a row.
Well, hang on just a second. I'm not saying that Ohio State is definitely going to beat Michigan. I'm saying most likely Michigan is going to lose that game.
Yeah.
Okay. I've kind of lost my train of thought of where I was headed now.
Sorry, sure.
Basically, yeah, let's not forget that Oregon is not a cinch for the playoffs. If they lose to USC, then you knock them down to 2-2 or 10-2, and you're making this comparison between Michigan, USC, and Oregon, which obviously USC would have the head-to-head against both of them, but Notre Dame's got the head-to-head against USC. We also have to consider that USC's got a rivalry game against UCLA. And I know it sounds ridiculous that they could lose that game, but that happens. And Michigan plays Maryland next week. And we see Michigan beating all these teams. Purdue, Michigan State, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Nebraska. Those are all marginal, mediocre to bad football teams. And Michigan has beaten all of them by less than a touchdown. Or I should say, when you put all the scores together, they have beaten them by an average of less than a touchdown. And on top of that, even if Oregon beats USC, they got to play Washington the next week. And people, again, I understand that are listening are going to think, oh, Oregon, they're going to beat Washington. Well, how many times do we say that? There are going to be upsets. So can the Big Ten get 3 in? Absolutely. There are scenarios in which the Big Ten may only get 2 in if things break in a bad way. If USC beats Oregon, but then they lose to UCLA and Ohio State beats Michigan, well, then the Big Ten's in a bad way.
Yeah, just like that too. I'm thinking, so right now, if the CFP committee came out today with the 12 teams, it would be James Madison.
Yes, that's what ESPN is telling us.
Okay.
That's not the selection I would make.
Who would you pick?
Oh, boy. Well, let's look at the American Conference. I would pick whoever the best team in the American Conference is. And that would take me looking at the teams and studying them based on their results. But just at first glance, I would take Tulane. Tulane's 8-2. They've got the best non-conference wins.
Okay.
Tulane lost to Texas San Antonio and Ole Miss. I think Tulane, they just beat Memphis 2 weeks ago. They beat FAU today.
Yeah.
I'm taking an 8-2 Tulane team over a 9-1 James Madison team any day of the week.
Okay, now would you take an 8-2 Navy team over James Madison?
That's a closer call. Now, I would say that Navy has increased its stock by winning this game today against South Florida, obviously. So Navy's got 2 nice wins. South Florida by 3 points. North Texas by no, they lost to North Texas. I'm sorry. They really have no other good wins. That's a close call. Then I'm going to default to James Madison actually playing a tough game against Louisville, playing them close, and Navy getting annihilated by Notre Dame. So I would take James Madison over Navy, but I would take Tulane over James Madison.
Okay. I was just wondering stuff like that. There was something else I was going to ask you. I forgot what it was. Oh, yeah. Did Duke pretty much play themselves out of the ACC championship today?
Yes. They're done.
And is Virginia's on life support still?
On life support? Virginia?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at the standings. I do not believe so. No, they're tied for first place.
Okay.
So we've got, it's right there. So we still have a 4-way tie for first place. And actually, when I say Duke is dead, I shouldn't even say that Duke is dead because they're tied for second place. There's a 2-way tie there, Miami and Duke. So let's take the head-to-heads into account, which may or may not factor into this. Georgia Tech beat Duke. Virginia beat Duke.
Because I don't think Georgia Tech and Virginia play each other, or Georgia Tech and Pitt play each other, do they?
Georgia Tech and Pitt, I believe, play next week.
Okay.
I believe. And then Pitt plays Miami the next week after that.
All right.
Yeah, it's still way too convoluted for us to look at this just by looking at the standings and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those head-to-head results could be enormous, or they could mean next to nothing if there are 3-way ties.
It should be more clear this time next Saturday night.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It gets more clear every week.
Yeah. All right. Now I gotta ask you this because this might sound like really. I'm trying to make some sticky as well. Say like because Ohio State. I'm trying to think who they got. Michigan left, and that's their. See, they're 11-0 right now, right? Or they 10-0 still.
10-0.
Okay. So they still got Michigan. And who's your last? Who's your other game?
Ohio State plays. I couldn't even tell you who they play next week. Is it Rutgers? Wait a minute. I don't
maybe,
remember
who
who they
knows?
play next week. Somebody that they're going to beat by 40 points, most likely.
Okay. I'm just wondering. Say like the inevitable happens in Ohio State drops their last two games of the season, which is Michigan and the Big Ten.
That's the
championship.
inevitable?
Yes.
It's
And
inevitable that Ohio State's going to lose its last two games of the season.
well, maybe not. I'm saying I'm trying to get it to
It's
stick.
an interesting definition of the word inevitable.
If they get annihilated both games, will they be on the outside looking in?
No. Okay, you're telling me if Ohio State loses by 50 points the next 2 weeks, are they going to miss the playoffs?
Yeah.
Probably yes.
Okay.
Because their schedule's not that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering. So, all right, I ran overtime. Mark, I'm so sorry. The
Who
guys
is
who's
Ohio
in,
State playing this week? Let's see here.
the
They've
guys.
got.
that's
I'm
it.
blanking. It's somebody bad. Rutgers. Yeah, I
Rutgers,
said
you're right.
Rutgers.
Okay.
Okay, that was my guess.
All right.
So yeah, there you go.
All right. I was just wondering stuff like that. All right, then, Mark. Thanks for calling. I'll catch you Monday night. See ya.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep.
Appreciate you being here. And I guess, well, I'm sorry that I missed this super chat. So we've got Rob chiming in with this. Appreciate your contribution, Rob. Mark, when I said crazy day, I mostly meant how fun of a day it was. I could have clarified, but either way, go Irish. Yeah, Rob, I'm sorry if it sounded like I was picking on your statement and what Minnie had to say. I was just a bit perplexed because again, I thought it was a fun day too. I enjoyed the football, but like nothing happened. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. We almost had something enormous in College Station, but when you really think about it, would that have affected the college football playoff? Not if Texas A&M takes care of business against Texas. No, it would have just been a loss, and they still would have been 11-1 and going to the SEC championship game. But it would have certainly been a stunner. But it did not happen. There were some odd plays late in that game. I did not watch that game until I realized that it was a waste of my time watching Notre Dame play Pitt. I should have realized that after about 6 plays. But Notre Dame and Pitt, I was really enthralled with the Michigan-Northwestern game. That was an excellent football game. It was fun to watch. Northwestern, I give them tons of credit for being so incredibly scrappy and hard-hitting. But Michigan was the better team by more than 2 points. They just made so many mistakes. Now, Northwestern forced many of those mistakes, but Michigan also was its worst enemy. But I was watching this Pitt Notre Dame game on the other screen, and I should have shut that off way ahead of time and gone to the Texas A&M South Carolina game. But I really took in like the last 3 to 4 minutes and a few things that were called in that game. South Carolina ran a play. No. Texas A&M ran a play down near the goal line that I couldn't believe. It was worse than the 2-point play that Northwestern ran against Michigan to make it a 3-point. Northwestern scores the touchdown to take a 22-21 lead against Michigan. And then they line up on the short side of the field and they run a screen where they throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage to like the 6-yard line, expecting that guy in a small little box of space to run a screen pass from the 6-yard line into the end zone for a 2-point conversion. That was almost as stupid as what Penn State did the week before against Indiana when they had a 3rd and 10 trying to win the game against Indiana and keep it away from Fernando Mendoza. and they run a bootleg to the tight end on 3rd and 10 and throw the ball 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage and expect a tight end against that Indiana defense to run 12 yards for a first down. You throw it to your slowest offensive player behind the line of scrimmage and expect him to get 12 yards. Stupid. Andy Kotelnicki should have been fired on the spot. All right. This appears, since we have $140 to go. Rob, thank you so much for your contribution, that this will be a quick call and our last one of the night. Michigan man stopping by.
Hey, what's up, man? I need to get Sharon Moore out of AA. I don't know what I got to do, Mark, but this is getting pretty bad. The clock management is some of the worst I've ever seen. He is so fortunate that when he called that timeout, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. He called a timeout on that field goal drive.
Yeah.
If he doesn't convert that, Northwestern has almost a minute to do something with the ball.
Sure.
How bad was that timeout, Mark? Did that make any sense to call that timeout at all?
No, but I'm trying to place this. I've seen a lot of football since then. I know what you're talking about, but I'm trying to think of the exact. So you're talking about the eventual game-winning field goal.
Yeah, so it's
That's right.
they get a first down. There's like 50 seconds left. They run the ball. I think Northwestern calls a timeout on first down. We run the ball again. So I think it's about to be third down. No, it's second down. So Northwestern has 2 timeouts because they called a timeout before the first down.
Yeah.
Sharon Moore decides, let me call a timeout. Let me call a timeout and not make them use their 2 timeouts. If we don't convert that third down, Mark, they have almost 50 seconds left to go march the field.
Okay. And there wasn't any other. I do remember them calling a timeout, but I don't really remember processing it as, what was going on at the time. I did at the time, but 10 hours later, I don't remember what the deal was.
Well, let's put it like this. You're trying to run the clock down for a 2-minute field goal.
Yeah.
In what world does it make sense to call a timeout and save time for the other team when you're really banking on converting a first down there instead of just, I don't know, making them waste their 2 timeouts and then you can take the clock all the way down?
I guess
to
the
like
only
10
thing
seconds.
I can think of is if they were about to burn the play clock. That's about the only thing I could think of.
They weren't. That's the crazy thing. The play clock was fine. I just don't, and he's done this all year, Mark. He has the worst game management I've ever seen, and it's just a poorly coached team. I just don't. I'm sick of watching, man. I, as a Michigan fan, I almost was hoping we lost the game, Mark, because I felt like a loss like that could have done something. Because I can't watch this for years on end. This is Brady Hoke all over again, Mark.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily know if it's that. I think that they're going to continue to bring in with NIL, and the players seem to like Sharon Moore, bring in really talented players. They're just going to have to play beyond the other team. They're going to have to make up for his coaching mistakes.
And here's the thing, too. Like, Bryce Underwood, before the interceptions, was having easily the best game of the year for him.
Sure.
And it was mostly because he was actually layering passes consistently.
Yeah.
Consistently layering passes and being on time.
Yeah.
That's enough about that. The last couple things I'll say is, do you think did you see Jeremiah Smith? Looks like he might be injured.
I did not see any of the Ohio State game.
Yeah, it looks like, from what I'm seeing online from some beat writers, he was limping after the game. Now, I don't know if that's serious. I know there's some rumors going down with Tate. I don't know what's up with that. But the only hope that Michigan has, because I don't see them even being close to competitive in that game, is those beast receivers aren't able to play. But I think they probably will. They'll probably sit both receivers next week, and then they'll just save them for the Michigan game. Do you think that's what they're going to try to do?
Well, I would expect that. Sure, they got plenty of wide receivers for Rutgers, but let's see what we've got posted here. We've got Ohio State thought it might be without two of its star receivers Saturday, but the Buckeyes only ended up being down one. Cornell Tate was ruled out of the game. Jeremiah Smith was listed as questionable on Ohio State's pregame injury report, but ultimately started the game, made a one-handed catch on Ohio State's opening drive. And
yeah, you might have to go on like
drives and was
there you go.
After his exit from the game. Yeah.
It looks like it might be a growing to me. The way he's walking, it might be a pulled groin.
Yeah, well, those things don't clear up easily.
So that's the only thing we can hope for. Now, Michigan's got its injury, and I shouldn't say hope. My bad. Let me take that back. That's the only chance Michigan kind of has.
Well, I think is if they. I don't agree with that.
You think they still got a chance?
With that. You've got a capable quarterback. You've got a superstar quarterback on occasion. He's not a superstar from play 1 to play Z, but just like you said, he was playing his best football today. He looked amazing when he looked amazing. Now, he made some bad reads and some bad throws, and I don't know where in the world he was sticking the ball in your backup running back's chest when he hit him in the shoulder pad with a football on that 4th down play. So he makes some mistakes, but they are so much better at quarterback than they were this time last year. And then you add Andrew Marsh to that. I think it's a dangerous team.
I feel you, Mark. It's the coaching I can't trust. Mark, we're barely beating bad teams consistently. Am I supposed to think we got any chance? Come on, man.
You have a better chance than last year's team.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if he sold his soul before that game at this point. I don't know what he did, but yeah, that's true. I will say, Manny, when you said about your conclusion that anybody can beat anybody, I haven't seen anybody coming close to being Ohio State.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, anybody
talking about that. I'm still perplexed by this. Anyone can beat anyone. She needs to be an Ohio State fan for a year. Anyone can beat anyone. I don't know that Nebraska can beat anyone good.
Mark, it's Ohio State's championship to lose at this point. I mean, it's so obvious,
doesn't it?
It's just so obvious. Every team, even Texas A&M today, they won the game, but
how
I know you
Georgia?
mentioned, Georgia. I would say Georgia's the best second half team in the country. I think.
Yeah.
They just explode in the second half every week. That's what they do. But we'll see, because I just don't think Texas is that good, Mark. I think Texas is not that good of a team.
You're right. They're not good.
They should have more losses, honestly.
Yeah, they could. Kentucky, Mississippi State. Watching Alabama and Oklahoma, when Alabama's right on offense, which is about 4 drives of that game, they were right. And even more than that, moving the ball between the 20s, they look really like a well-oiled machine. The closest thing to Ohio State's passing game is Alabama's passing game when it's right. But Oklahoma was gritty, and they just were determined, and those guys are fighters, and they just made great defensive plays. They just whipped Alabama's tackles enough to put enough pressure on Ty Simpson and make big sacks at the right time and force fumbles. They hit hard. They barely gained 200 yards. Mateer was not that good, but they were.
He hasn't been the same since he came back from that hand injury.
Yeah, agreed.
He just has not been the same at all. And I think, and I'm fellow Michigan fan, don't hate me for this. There's a scenario and I think it's likely that if Michigan beats Ohio State and we're 10-2, I think there's a high chance we still don't make the playoffs. Because how would you leave USC and Oklahoma out?
Exactly.
Because here's what they're going to consider. They're going to look at how bad we've played everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just that they beat us. They're going to look at, okay, well, they beat you. That's one. How did you play versus everybody else in comparison?
Yeah. So if you're looking at USC and Michigan, they both played Purdue. USC played them better. They both played Michigan State. USC played better. They both played Northwestern. USC played better. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why this coach, and I'll end it on this. What we just stated is why Sharon needs to go. If you go 10-2, and even though you beat Ohio State, because of how bad you've coached this team for most of the year, is why we would miss the playoffs. Because those games should not have been as close as they were. It all came down to bad coaching, all of them.
You know that at this point he's not getting fired regardless of anything.
Oh, he's got next year for sure.
Yeah.
But I could dream, can I? Like, hey man, look, everybody got to hope on something, man. Mark, this is what I call a dangerous path to mediocrity right here.
Yeah, when you've got the guy that's not good enough to get it done, but you're meeting a certain standard that's not, fireable, then that is a dangerous place to be.
No, it is. All right, man. Go blue. And I didn't get to say this last week. Michigan State, you guys are the real cheaters because real cheaters get their games vacated. Connor Stallions, you won in the end. You was just trying to catch them. So you did your honorable duty, sir. And I'm sorry that Michigan State tried to pin it on you, man. You was able to catch them in the act, and they had to vacate your game that you was on the sideline for. Go blue, Mark. Greatest irony I've ever seen in the history of the game. All right, peace out.
All right, good stuff from Michigan Man, and it is quite ironic that it turned out that way for Michigan State. Michigan State is in a bad way right now, and I didn't think that would necessarily be the case when they hired Jonathan Smith because he did a nice job at Oregon State, but sometimes coaches, Luke Fickell, Wisconsin, are just not the right fit. So I still believe Jonathan Smith to be a good coach, but it is just not working out in East Lansing. And Penn State thought that it might go through the season without a win in the Big Ten, but that they ran into Michigan State, and that cured everything. Minnie apparently has not heard Michigan Man before. Yes. One of our longtime frequent callers. Good to hear from Michigan Man. I did not delve into the Michigan State situation and what happened there. I did run into our friend Chris Drew from the Menace. What's it called? What's Zach Smith's show called? I don't remember. Menace something. Menace. That's all I've got in my head. I forget what the rest of it goes. Anyway, Zach Smith's show, his sidekick, his Robin, Chris Drew, he was kicking around Michigan this week, and I told him we should have him back on the show to kick Michigan around a little bit. If it were possible for me to do this and drop social media, that would be the best route to go. I know you folks on Twitter, I told you that we were getting rid of you, but then I forgot. So you're still with us to the bitter end. Join Minnie with TJ Ronan. That's coming up, let's see, Monday at some particular time, probably in the evening on the Michigan channel. And of course, I'll be back here on Sunday. We got Minnie and Doreen, of course, the ladies of college football. You can catch them right here at the Voice of College Football on the main channel Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And that should do it for this fine Saturday night. It's been a fun week 13 of college football. We'll be back on Monday with all of you.